You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market, from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the option block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tussaw from RCM Asset Management, Andrew the Rock Lobster Joe Vanazzi from OptionPit.com, and Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the option block.
All right, everybody. It's good to hear that music again. It's good to be talking on this mic again. Yes, it's time for the option block. My name is Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-exciting Options Insider Radio Network. I was struck low by a pretty nasty plague last week. I was talking to Uncle Mike before the show here, and something bad is going through Chicago and the hinterlands, and it's been around for a while, and I've been dodging it left, right, and center. And if you got little guys and little kids out there, you know what I'm talking about. And I've been dodging it nimbly for the better part of the last month. Whenever it would rear its ugly head, I got out of the way. And I thought I was good. And then this last week, my little guy got it again. And I could not. The bullseye was squarely upon me. And it was a rough week, listeners. But we made do. We had some able co-hosts stepping in, filling some big shoes there on the network for the end of the week. So hopefully you enjoyed. The content never stops flowing to you guys. It's a good thing you're paying the big bucks to listen to this, because the content tap never stops flowing here at the Options Insider, no matter who is at death's door. Sounds like Uncle Mike may be on the verge there as well. It has spread to the hinterland. So we'll get rolling with the show here. Of course, you guys know how you can listen to it. And of course, if you like to listen live, we welcome you guys to do that as well. Just grab that Mixler link. Excuse me. Still have a little bit of a lingering cough there. I'll try to mute that whenever possible. Of course, the Mixler link, you can grab that, set it and forget it. Follow us there. We are investigating, I think maybe in early 2018, we are investigating some additional ways to get it to you live, because we know a lot of you don't use Mixler, or you can't access it for whatever reason, or you like to use the Periscopes or the Facebook Lives or things like that. So we're playing around with some ideas. We haven't worked anything out particularly yet, but we got some ideas on that front, because obviously we like to focus on the audio. So we'll get something rolling on that maybe soon, and we'll have additional ways for you guys to join the live party. That is the option block. Of course, however you listen live after the fact, hit us up. Questions, comments, insights, and if you feel that the spirit of the season moves you, you want to head on over to your platform of choice, leave a few stars that way or a review or two. We wouldn't hold it against you. And of course, we do, yes we do, like to hear from you guys. However you like to look. Questions, reviews, whatever, slams of the Rock Lobster, we welcome it all. And of course, speaking of the Rock Lobster, let's see who I got joining me. Let's start off. I do believe we have the rockiest of lobsters here on the old program today, joining us from that great state of Maine. The nice thing about moving far from civilization, Mr. Rock Lobster, is you can avoid these horrible plagues. So how are things in the land of Maine, sir?
Snowy but plagueless. We have no plagues in the state of Maine right now.
I was kind of second guessing my living in a population center last week when all of this was going down. I was like, I should live in the hinterlands like the Rock Lobster.
Really, maybe you might catch some sort of squirrel disease, but since I don't eat squirrel, I don't have that problem.
That's true. You guys are a little closer to the livestock there, so maybe swine flu, or in your case, lobster flu, if that is a thing, maybe more of an issue. Speaking of lobster flu and various, we're gonna get him sick just talking about it, so maybe we'll stop. We got Uncle Mike there fighting along. He said the whole crew has dropped except for him. You are the last of the Mohegans, quite literally, sir. Welcome to the program, Uncle Mike from RCM Wealth Advisors. Glad to hear you're holding on, sir. Hopefully, we didn't curse you bringing you on Twifo last week and give you the kiss of death.
Oh, no kidding. Well, I mean, my family all has all the bad the whatever you guys had from what it sounds like. And so far I don't, but I think I might have like an hour or so left of health. So what better way to spend it than on the option block?
All right, we'll get rolling then before the plague gets you and the bell starts tolling for you as we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block. This is indeed the portion of the show where we break down, surprise, surprise, what is trading? What is catching our eye? What is going on? Weird day out there today, listeners. All the major indices closing up strong here on the day. We got everything up roughly a little over 0.5%, 0.6%, pretty much across the board. So pretty flat and even. So strong joy out there to kick off the week. Even VIX Cash up a wee bit, which is kind of interesting. It's still in the single digits, 9.62. But weird day, just volume-wise, option-wise, what was actually trading out there. All a little weird. A lot of divvies, a lot of divvy plays on the tape today, which is always a little interesting as well. We'll get to all of that in a bit, but let's bring Uncle Mike on first here, just to get him into the rotation before things go sideways. Uncle Mike, what was catching your eye in today's interesting day, sir?
Well, of course, never before in the history of the entire stock market has there ever been a better time to sell than today. We did hit a new all-time high today in the S&P, so that's always exciting. But it really didn't continue to go higher. For the most part, we had a little bit of a run-up after the close on Friday. I think the futures were up like roughly 5 points shortly after the close. A little bit of a gap up going into trading today. Market rallied pretty much right away for the first few minutes of trading. So it looked like we were off to the races again, but then just kind of stopped. But it didn't go lower. So for all of my fellow bulls out there, that's a good thing. So that's one exciting thing that's happening right now. It appears that my beloved precious metals might be bottoming again, and that the downturn has at least stopped for the time being in it. So we have that going on. A couple individual names of interest. Apple was up over 1% on the day today, so we did have a nice little rally there. A couple other names that we hold in the strategic night, as well as our triple income. Last Friday was the expiration, our monthly expiration, and we came into this week with a total clean screen. Everything expired worthless. That is one area because we have cash backing it up. We actually do let options expire worthless in that portfolio, and the ones where we are using spreads where we have a little bit of leverage involved, we don't. That's one to where we get out at a nickel or whatever. But on that one, we came into this week with a clean screen. So sold me a bunch of puts today. And so we'll see how that goes for the coming month. And overall, I'd say it was really exciting early in the day. And then just kind of was meh the rest of the day overall. So that's what we got going on. At least that's what's lighting up my tape anyway.
Mr. Rock Lobster, same question for you while you were busy dodging the nasty lobster flu. What was catching your eye in today's sea of green on the old tape today?
Twitter up 10%.
Yeah, JP Morgan likes it. I don't know if you heard, but JP Morgan tends to like it, and now all of a sudden it's one of their quote-unquote best ideas for 2018. Welcome to 2007, guys.
I think that is unbelievable. But hey, I actually that's one today. It probably made my week. It might have made my month after the last week in there. So that is one of get your juice for free type of positions. So I'm not going to complain too much about it. But other than that, market all-time highs. Has this tax bill passed yet? Corporations, they're going to bring back a bunch of cash, but their tax rate's going to go down. I'm still like, it's like one of those things where you got to pass it to read all the stuff that's in it. I don't know who said that, but or that was about the healthcare bill, I guess.
Nancy Pelosi on Obamacare.
Yes, so we got to pass that. I almost feel like that's what the tax bill is. Although somebody that has their finger on the buy stock button must be reading it and must like it. You've got this Mueller investigation going, the Russians. I mean, I can say if every time there's a hint that something might be bad, or some news agency drops the Russia bomb, the news bomb, and the market, they just pull the plug on it instantaneously. So it's kind of like we're poised for all those things, yet they're not really happening or coming into play. VIX is probably about as low as it can be, with the market up 0.5% at this point. It was almost up 1% last week into Friday. And I had a heck of a time trying to fill your shoes on Thursday, Mr. Longo, but I tried my best. So
it's a fun job, isn't it?
It's good, but it's not easy. You make it look easy on the radio.
Yeah, it's easy to make things look good on the radio. It's fun.
So as far as strategy that I have with clients is just basically just long gamma, longer term gamma, the March cycle, and hedge with vol product puts, and that's it's not a 20 VIX strategy per se, but it's certainly a good 9 VIX strategy. So there's not much to do but just peel off your longs and just watch the market go up. And I think if you're selling premium now, it's tough sledding, because everything just keeps ripping through upside strikes. So we have seen this before in the 90s. Things are starting to get a multiple now, and where it goes, I have no idea. It's kind of like Bitcoin. I don't know. But until something changes, it looks like we're still kind of headed in the up direction. So, but it is interesting that some of and I think some opportunity still is, there's a lot of stocks that did not participate this year. Like Twitter for most of the year did nothing. Stocks like that are still connected to technology, but just had a rough year because Google and Amazon and Nvidia and Microsoft, I mean, all of those, if you look at them, just massive, massive gains for all those stocks. And I think some of the smaller tech companies sort of kind of went by and got missed. So it'll be interesting to see if they start to spend 2018 catching up to some of their massive market cap peers. But at least for right now, if the investigation kind of happens the way it is, and the tax stuff gets done, market still likes it, and it does not look like it's the equity market does not look like it wants to change its mind as of right now.
That it does not. It does not appear to be. Hasn't changed its mind in quite some time. So it's been a whole year of very one-sided mindset on that front. Speaking of one-sided, the market on all the love train. You're right today for Twitter. I'm sure your pit chat crazies were enjoying that. Yeah, Morgan just lighting them up, saying they're one of the bank's best ideas for 2018. And these reports just drive paper, drive volume. This name averaging about 76,000 contracts a day, doing nearly 330,000 contracts today. Surprise, surprise, about 6-to-1 calls over puts. Stock up nearly 11%, actually exactly 11% on the day today. So yeah, just a crazy town across the board for all things Twitter. Also interesting that we're seeing a lot of interest out there in all things. Of course, the party has become official. So let's talk about the official party that everyone's been waiting for. The party kind of kicked off last week when CBOE got the ball rolling on the 10th, I believe it was, for their futures. Now the party is official because the second entrant, and really the first name you think of when you think of futures contracts, CME got the ball rolling yesterday as well. So now we got 2 futures contracts out there. And it's interesting to look at the numbers. I'm pulling them up right now as we see how this first day. Remember, CBOE that first day, I think, did around 4,300 contracts or so. And then it kind of tapered off later on in the week. CME today looks like they listed a similar number of contracts. They listed Jan, Feb, March, and June. They did about 1,000 contracts, looks like, here on their first real trading day. CBOE benefiting from a little bit of that rub. Maybe hard to really do back and forth on this trading, but nevertheless going to drive some volume between these two. Doing about 4,000 here. Looks like again today here on CBOE. Again, most of this. Both of these contracts are almost 95%, if not more, front month here. Interesting thing of note, though, there are different contract specs. CBOE going the old one contract, one coin route for a multiplier. CME a little bit beefier. That's why the numbers are smaller. They're doing 5 coins, which, as we all know, is a small island these days when you're talking Bitcoin. So 5 coins to 1. So they're 1,000 really. You're thinking about one coin. Actually, a 5x you got to slap on that. So yeah, they did looks like about almost 1,100 contracts and about 1,050 of that in the front month in CME. Mr. Rock Lobster, any of your hardcores slinging either the XBT or the other product here as we've got the full Bitcoin palooza going?
I haven't heard any clients trade the futures yet. We had several that have owned Bitcoin for a while that were Bitcoin miners that started unwinding positions the last week or so. So it was one of those things where all of a sudden it just became really expensive. It was going to be my blog subject. It's about the mathematics around Bitcoin and will it cause the next financial crisis and all that stuff. Probably not, because you have to put up cash to buy it, and the margin on the futures are pretty high. The CME and the CBOE are pretty good at margining those products, so they're just charging people a ton. There's no 10% margin for Bitcoin. It's much higher than that. So the things that cause financial crises in the past, excessive leverage, I haven't, at least from just casual observing, I haven't seen how you can even possibly leverage the product or as we have seen in the past, investment banks allowing people to bet against Bitcoin and leverage those type of positions, and then, how that stuff kind of spirals. And that has not happened, at least, that I can tell, because most of them have just stayed away. So as long as things stay kind of cash settled, you need the right margin, and you basically need your 19 grand now to buy a Bitcoin. It's, buyer beware time, but nothing that will create a big problem. But maybe, as you remarked, the world might be out of power just trying to mine them.
Yeah, that's we're going to wipe out the whole world here. I don't know if you heard this, Uncle Mike, but interesting article. Someone we put up there, I think last week, a headline saying, and again, I haven't dug into the numbers, so I don't know exactly how. Some of this seems a little histrionic to me, but they're claiming here that each Bitcoin transaction, in terms of mining, I believe, requires the same amount of energy used to power 9 homes in the U.S. for one day. The aggregate computing power of the Bitcoin network, nearly 100,000 times larger than the world's 500 fastest supercomputers combined. The total energy use of this web hardware, estimated 31 terawatt hours per year. More than 150 individual countries in the world consume less energy annually. And they're saying it's going to increase its energy use by about 450 gigawatt hours. I forgot this came from a site, grist.org. I'm not familiar with them at all. Someone sent it to us. So again, take those numbers with a grain of salt. But apparently, for the anti-Bitcoin crowd, it's destroying the world. So there you go. That's another feather in your cap. That said, Uncle Mike, you like yourselves a little bit of shiny stuff. I'm not sure if you heard, but these are coins. So you must love these, right? And then also, flip side of that, what do you think about Bitcoin? These shiny coins destroying our world.
Well, if that's the case, I think we need to somehow find a way to be long Bitcoin, short world, and work that combo somehow. How do you get short Earth? Would be a good way to do that.
I think you buy asteroid futures. I think that's what you do.
Ooh, I like that idea. We should start up a new contract for that. So, no, I think that with Bitcoin, what I'm looking to do, I think it's a fad personally, and I think that Andrew and I talked about what Nasser Taleb was saying last week on the show when he was in the hot seat, and when they get options on these products. If it's something to where it can be done in not in a futures account, but in a non-futures account and just a securities account. Once we get to that point, I'm hoping that the bubble hasn't burst at that point. And when we start seeing some type of downward momentum in Bitcoin, I'm looking to do some type of a vertical put spread or do some type of strategy on it to play the short side of it. I've just been around too long, and then when they always say that when the cab drivers start talking about stocks and things like that, then it's time to get out. And I've had college football players contact me about Bitcoin. I've had firemen contact me about Bitcoin. I've been asked about Bitcoin so much over the course of the last couple of weeks that I can't resist taking a small position on the short side of it when you're able to with limited risk with some type of a put spread.
Yeah, I'm definitely of Talib's mind on that. I don't say that very often. Myself and Mr. Black Swan of the same mind, but we are on this one. I can't fathom. I think what he was saying is that he couldn't fathom shorting this. It's not in any way risk controlled when it's just a straight net asset like this. We can't do it with options. You can't really do it credibly, and I'm totally on board with that. I need the options. We asked you guys about that. We'll get to that in a little bit in our question of the week. What you folks are thinking about the $1 million question? Now the Bitcoin party is live and kicking. Everyone's asking us, when the heck are we going to see options? So we asked you guys. We'll get to those results in a little bit, what you guys are thinking there. By the way, speaking of people who aren't fans of Bitcoin futures, Mr. Petterfee over there, Thomas Petterfee over at IB, pretty famously or infamously right now has been leaping into this fray, saying, particularly the way they're cleared and the way CME and CBOE kind of rushed him to market, he was not a fan of that, and he thinks his stuff should be segregated. He shouldn't be in that same. So he's not a fan of that, but their firm is trading it, and his reticence hasn't stopped him. If you go type interactive, now if you're not interactive brokers, you'll get them obviously. But if you go type Bitcoin futures into your browser right now, guess which firm is the only firm out there buying ads on that search term right now? Yeah, it's IB. So their reticence and their reluctance for all things Bitcoin hasn't stopped them from trying to get your Bitcoin trading dollars onto their platforms. They can't be too upset about this whole Bitcoin craze, I guess, at the end of the day. All right, with all that, we got a lot more to get to. So let's get to it right on in the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody. That funky tune means it's time for the funky side of the show. If Bitcoin wasn't funky enough, don't worry, we got you covered with more funkiness here in the Odd Block, the weird, the wild, the wonderful, the active. Wow, the active funky options here today in the old Odd Block. We're going to kick things off as we always do these days. It's nice to have a nice clear navigation point when you start this, because you never know in the markets where the winds of the market will take you. So to have that clear North Star, that is Tesla for us. Every time we kick off the Odd Block is always a refreshing thing. We always talk about these Jan 2019 50, yes, 50 catastrophe puts. And people usually go up 20, 30, maybe 100, maybe 200 if it's a really crazy day. Today, just lighten it up to the tune of 593. Somebody really wants these things. Over 35,000 open now on this strike, 35,198. So yeah, nearly 600 of these things going up here today, listeners. People are writing in saying, these things, I don't get it. They don't do a lot of volume. They do, and they continue to do so. Worth noting also, we noted on the show a couple of weeks ago, I believe, that there also seems to be some growing interest in the, because if Jan 2019 50s wasn't far enough out in the totem pole for you, this one, Jan 2020 50s, also starting to get on the old Eye of Sauron out there as well. 82 of those hitting the tape today. Those are, in case you're wondering, they're 245 at 262 right now. So a little richer. Got to pay a lot more for that year out there. 4,324 of those on the tape. So Mr. Rock Lobster, does this continue to blow your mind? Got 35,000 of the Jan 2019 50s on the tape. Almost 600 hitting the tape today. If that wasn't enough, nearly 100 of the Jan 2020 50s also lighting it up. Who loves these things? The
famous short seller, what is it, John Chanos? I think he's starting to eye Tesla as well. I don't know if he's been buying the 50 puts, but he has put it on his list for ultimate destruction, like he does every once in a while. And his track record is pretty good. So do I know of anybody? I've actually been trying to figure out ways to buy premium in here, but since 2 weeks ago, as we cover this every week, I think Tesla rallied $40 or something. It looked like it was going to break 300, and then no, it didn't. It rallied 40 or $50 or something like that, just because somebody wanted to take delivery of their trucks, or they ordered trucks, or said they were going to order trucks, or it's hard to know exactly with the wonder kind that is Elon Musk, because he's got so many things in the fire. But anyway, same old thing. Still keep buying them, and I would love to figure out how to actually buy. This is one of the hardest stocks for me to trade overall, just because its entry cost is not easy and everything else. But maybe that is the right way. Just buy a bunch of puts 2 years out and see what happens. But it's hard to bet against that guy.
Yeah, especially all that's so far out. You're going down to the 50 strike. You got to really, that makes your Jan 10 puts in VXX looks positively just ridiculously pessimistic, sir. That doesn't even get on the radar at this point. It looks like a joke. Speaking of jokes, someone's paper today, not a joke. It's a serious size, including, it's been a while since we covered just a nice size call party, call palooza, call it what you will. That's what we got going on. And our old friend Regions Financial Corp. I haven't talked about them in a little bit. Ticker symbol RF. Good old RF. Closing today, $17.33, up about 21 cents, or about a little over 1%. This is a name that does about 4,700 contracts a day. Today doing 51,500, 23.2 to 1 calls over puts. Like I said, it was a call party, call palooza, pretty much of that volume, almost half, should look like a little over half, coming in these Jan 20s that were just lighting up the tape today. Over 26,000 on the day hitting the tape. The lion's share they're coming in blocks, chunks, couple thousand here or so throughout the day. Most of these lighting it up for 14 cents. Going out today, a dime at 13 cents. So they eroded a wee bit on all this. Looks like some of this, a lot of these could be bid side, so it could be a little bit of overwriting action going on here. Worth noting, OI only 3,600 contracts. So this is clearly all size open in paper. Worth noting, a lot of calls hitting the tape out here today. The 19s also lighting it up nearly 7,000 times, and about 8,800 of the Feb 18s also lighting it up. So just a call frenzy out here in good old Regions. And we talked about this a few times in this year. And looking back at the year that's been, and compared to some of the other names we talked about here, Regions hasn't been the most rock'em sock'em names. Yet it comes on our odd block probably more frequently than a name like this you probably would think would warrant. This name has kind of started off the year around about $14.5, and it's kind of vacillated from there, dripped down to about 13, and then bouncing up to pretty much where it is now, close to the highs for the year here, 17.33. So it has had a little bit of a run here, but not as much as some of the other names certainly we've talked about here, and yet it's been lighting it up. And today, apparently, Mr. Rock Lobster, did you get your invitation to the call party today in Regions? And if so, how did you answer? I would like to buy some of those. I'd like to sell some of those. What was your RSVP to this party?
Oh, to the call party. This is one of those parties where you look at this and you see the market ripping, yet 14 cents seems to be a perfectly acceptable amount to sell a call for. And I realize that it has, little chance to get up there because it's rallied so much, and big cap bank and stuff like that. But it will never cease to amaze me how people somebody will reach for yield. I guess 1%. It's still about 1% till January, so that's better than nothing. But holy gosh. And actually, how many of these things traded? 20-something thousand. I think they closed a penny less too.
He's already half of the way home, sir.
Somebody got a good mark. to have their Christmas.
Yeah,
their Christmas holiday start off in the right.
I had
the
same thought. That was a pretty favorable mark. That's how, if you're the market maker and you're blasting out a bunch of these calls, I'm just going to move my call wing down here a little bit, Mr. Risk Manager. You don't mind that? No, of course not. Go for it. I fully support that. This wing should be much lower than it is. Sure, I'm on board with that. I had the same feeling there. I was like, oh, that's a nice little check mark for you there today. Take your 2 cents and run, sir. It's well done. All right. But yeah, interesting paper there in good old Regions. We'll keep an eye on that. It is pretty near term, so maybe we'll put this in the to be watched category, listeners. So we'll keep an eye on our old friends Regions. It's kind of like a greatest hits coming back in the odd block today. We also got CXX. Talked about them before. It's been a little while since they've been on the old partay as well. This is CSX Corporation. Ticker symbol CXX. In case you're wondering, they are a transport company. They do rail-based freight. Closing today, $53 and about 60 cents, up a little over about 1.3%. Excuse me, on the day. This is a name that does about 14,000 contracts, doing about 53,000 today, a little over 2-to-1 calls over puts. And a lot of paper was lighting it up out here today. It was just a very active day out here in CSX. But one of the trades that caught our eye amongst this kind of trade palooza came out here in Jan. Looked like a nice little Jan vertical. Ratio vertical, actually. So we like ourselves a little ratio vertical action here in the old odd block. In this case, it was the Jan 57.5, 54 vertical that lit it up today to the tune of started off at least 3,640 of the Jan 54s, gobbling up these bad boys, lifting, actually trading through the offer on these, and then coming in doing pretty much 2x that, 72.80 of the Jan 57.5 calls, kind of crushing the bid there, doing it for pretty much about $1.30 and about 33 cents, so right around $1 there. Of course, that's a ratio, so you got to do the 2x there, listeners. And worth noting, of course, OI non-existent on the 54s and about 12,000 on the 57 halves. So it is possible that perhaps someone is deciding, excuse me, that there is a little bit more to be had on these 54s, and so rolling down. If so, they're taking some money off the table, which is usually, if you're doing a roll like that and you're taking money off the table, probably a sign that you're not exactly playing or cooking with gas or cooking with house money at that point. But it is worth knowing a lot of paper lighting it up out here. Total on these strikes of about 5,000 of the 54s and about 10,000 of the 57 halves going up. Also almost 6,000 of the doubles, the 55 calls. So just a lot of paper out here pretty much across the board. You picked a strike. It had some decent action out here today in CSX. So a lot of interest, a lot of love for CSX. Let's see how the chart has been faring over the past year. And it started off the year way down there at about $36, and then it kind of gapped up back in Jan earnings, went from about 36 to up into the low 40s, got up to about 45 really quickly, right around after earnings. So it had a nice little gap up of nearly 10 handles there. And it's kind of been slowly moving its way up since then, hitting its highs of the year pretty much right around here. The 53, 54 level. Actually, no, excuse me, hit 58 a couple of sessions ago. So it's come off that a little bit. So been an interesting little run here in that. Of course, that spike to 58 could be a reason why those so much size OI on the 57 halves right now, and also could be perhaps by someone deciding to discretion is perhaps the better part of valor. Mr. Rock Lobster, I know you've also in the past been invited to a few ratio call parties as well. Those are always a little bit funkier, they get a little bit weirder, quicker than the straight up just call paloozas that we like to talk about here as well. The ratio one's always a little funkier. Did you get your invite for this one? And if so, what was your feeling on that invite? Did you decline? Because I said, you're closing and rolling and you're losing money, so I don't want to come to your sad party. Or do you think this is something new and novel and you wanted to attend?
I'm looking at this. I think because this was a subject in our chat room. I think the CEO of CSX died, unfortunately, recently. The stock sold off a little bit. this is one that we were looking for kind of a bounce play. So this has all the sniffings and smellings of some sort of like a low cost bounce play, spending 50 cents for the 54, 57.5 1x2 spread, which doesn't seem like an unreasonable trade to me, with the stock kind of trading close to 54. So I don't think that would be too bad of a trade on a pop. I think with this one though, I think I'd rather sell some put spreads or something like that. But because who knows how long it'll take for the stock to right itself. But it feels slightly like that, even though there was high open interest. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those. It just feels like it's a 1x2 for low cost. There's small chance of it really trading above 57.5. Unless it gets taken out or something like that, which could happen because you have Warren Buffett hanging around because I think he likes those railways. Does he own this one, or I don't? He owns so many things it's hard to keep track.
If it doesn't, it's just a matter of time.
But anyway, that's what it doesn't look like an unreasonable play, but yes, it is a bit of the, it is a little bit of the gallows trading down in the bottom.
Yeah, you gotta love scooping those death calls in good old CSX. It's gotta warm the cockles there. Really, really good stuff. Just good old holiday trading. Bring the kids, bring the family. Scoop some death calls now at CSX. Yeah, interesting stuff. Just for you all out there, by the way, who are sending all these invites to us here, you got a better chance of maybe getting the Rock Lobster. I mean, I'm down for a party, but the Rock Lobster, he's a little more selective in the part. He might want to only hit, maybe the ratio. So the funkier, the better for the Rock Lobster. 'Cause he's got to come all the way from Maine. He doesn't live anywhere near this kind of stuff. So you got to really lure him. You got to attract his attention with something funky. Let's see if our last one can fit the bill, Mr. Rock Lobster. We're going to flip the script here as well. We're going to go long-term, taking some puts and maybe rolling them into a long-term put spread in Synchrony Financial, ticker symbol SYF. Closing today right about 38.5. Also a good day for this one, up 3.6%. Or $1.32 on the day. So rally ho mode for good old SYF. This is the name that does a bit shy of 8,000 contracts a day. Today doing about 44,000 contracts. Of that, 41,000 came in the puts. So 13.5 to 1 puts over calls. And that's where our attention was drawn, listeners, all the way out to the Jan. And we got some regular Jan versus some longer term Jan. Let's start with our old regular Jan. It was the Jan, so 2018, listeners, 35 puts, going up 10,000 times to start the day. Paper hitting a bid for $2.75. Decent OI open there, about 15, nearly 16,000 contracts open there. So has all the smell of perhaps a roll, but that wasn't enough. They rolled, and they rolled a little bit farther out and also rolled into potentially a bit of a spread, a bit of a ratio spread, actually. They rolled on out to, looks like Jan 2019, so they bought themselves another year. And they decided, they went back to the 35 strike, doing those 10,000 times as well. I'll take that back. The Jan 35 puts, I thought that was a little rich. The Jan 35 puts were 20 cents. Then the Jan 35 puts in 2019 were $2.75. So they went back to the 35 strike. They kept things going. Then they decided, let's add a little bit of a funky ratio kicker to this, because why not? So you got the Jan 28 puts going up as well for 90 cents, and they decided to do those 2x, 20,000 times. So now you got 10,000 puts being rolled out to Jan 2019, so rolled out a year, and then 20,000 2x of another strike, about 7 handles away, doing for kickers. No OI really to speak of, on either of those strikes, so all open in paper. A bit of an interesting one. We don't usually see rolls into ratio spreads like this. So that's kind of funky in and of itself. Also funky is the execution here. You could parse this a lot of different ways. Pretty much all these went up on or near the bid, so it could be funky times stupid ratio, which would make Uncle Mike's here stick up, I think. But I think it's pretty safe to assume at least that front leg is probably closing, and it has all the feel, all the flavor of a roll into another existing protective position with a bit of a kicker to the downside. Someone deciding, this thing does bite off a little bit more to the downside than we could chew. I'll pick up some on the 28 strike. Let's see how those levels line up. Looking at the past year, has been an interesting one here for good old Synchrony. They started off the year about 36.5. Then they traded down in May, hit their nadir back in mid-May, about $26, right around that range. So that 28 strike starting to make a little bit more sense. It's a little bit above that, but of course, you got that whole put spread you bought before that cushioning you all the way down, so your break even on this trade is going to be a lot below 26 at this point. You got all that profit to work through. So that's you can start seeing how those levels start to make a little bit of sense when you see a chart like that. And then, of course, it has rally ho mode since then, pretty much right back up to where it is right now, 38.5. So interesting stuff, Mr. Rock Lobster. Well, would you also attend this put rolling ratio spread party, sir? Or is this beneath your gaze, sir?
I don't know if it's beneath my gaze. It's a hard one to figure out because of just all the pricing. All the January puts are on the bid. Did they sell more puts to pay for the upper puts? So that's a hard one. Even and it looks like the 2019s are opening. The 2018s are closing somehow. So were they long them and then sold them? I have to say this is a bit of a ball of confusion for me at this point. And also Synchrony Financial, is this one of those after the financial crisis kind of cobbled together financial firms from the assets of some broken company? So it's a lot of consumer credit and
regional banks, so that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I have more questions than answers on this one, but. And even the 1x2, the 90 cents versus 2.75, so they make $1 on that with the extra contracts. The only way I could see that is that's a total meltdown play if you're buying 2, selling 1, or you keep your dollar. I don't know. It all looks like just a lot of big whoop on the trade.
It is a lot of big whoop. I think this chart kind of backs up the buying 1, selling 2 on that ratio. It looks like, if I saw this chart and I had to pick where I would strike, I'd say, okay, those strikes are not the most outlandish I've seen. Maybe he wants to pick some up if he hits that low again. And he's got that whole 10-handle spread to cushion him way beyond that 28 strike, So it's I agree. It's all sorts of funky. It's open to many interpretations. That's why we like it. That's why we call it the odd block, listeners. Right. It's not just us, mansplaining all this stuff to you. I does like to do that on occasion.
Right. I could see how they would trade this. They could do 1x2, and then they start selling puts in front of the position. That's certainly possible. But man, it does seem like a lot of work to accomplish. I always like to see what's the intent of the position. I had talked to students like, what are you trying to do with this? And this is one where it's kind of hard. I get the 1x2, but the extra puts, the only thing I can assume they're trying to take the stock and create some kind of upside play with. But anyway, like I said, it's not quite the struggle I had with the SPX vertical call spread, but there's a slight struggle with this one, I have to say.
It's up there. It's up there in the pantheon, but not quite Zeus status. Maybe it's more we're talking Pan and his pan flute level kind of thing as well. So all the Greek mythology fans out there will chuckle at that. Meanwhile, we gave Uncle Mike enough time to rest. It's time to break open the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mail Block. We buried the lead at the top of the show here talking crypto and Twitter and all these things. Who cares about all that? Of course, Star Wars The Last Jedi opened this weekend, so we had a little fun poll over the weekend. We don't always just ask option stuff, most of the time. That is our handle, after all. But once in a while, we have little options breaks, and this was one of them. We asked you. I saw it. It was fun. I asked you guys, what did you think? Was it better than the last one? So better than Force Awakens? Worse than the last one, a.k.a. Force Awakens? Are you not a Star Wars fan? In which case, you're following the wrong people. Or what do you think? Are you in the hardcore camp that say it's better than Empire? So first off, Uncle Mike, did you make it out there with all the sickness going on? And then B, if so, what did you think?
I haven't had a chance to make it out there yet, but I have a heart. I liked The Force Awakens, but I'll be honest with you. Ever since Empire, I don't see how you can really beat that, to be honest with you. I mean, that was really good the way that they did that. And, I liked the way that Return of the Jedi ended initially. And so I probably would have been happy just if they would have started doing like the side movies like they did like a year ago after Return of the Jedi, quite honestly, because that was a really cool ending in terms of how Luke saw the good in his father and Darth Vader. I mean, it's really hard to beat that, I think. But I'll have an open mind. I'll probably see the new one at some point in the near future, and I'll see what I think of it. But for now, I have not seen it.
Yeah, it seems to be dividing the masses. Some really loving it, some not hating it, but thinking it's all right. Mr. Rock Lobster, do they even have theaters for you to see these things called films out there in the land of Maine?
We do not. There are no theaters. There are none in my town. There's none in the town here. There is one in the town over, the next town over. So I guess I could. But, to be honest, I just never go to the movies anymore. I don't. So I'm sure I'll see this on video in a year or something.
So I'm here with two Star Wars Philistines, is what you guys are both.
What did you think of it, Mark? Did you like it?
I did like it. I thought it was really good. I don't think it's quite. Some people were lavishing the praise that it's the better than Empire even. I don't think it's quite there. I think if I had to vote in this, I would say it's a little bit worse than Force Awakens. I like Force Awakens probably than this, but it's a fun movie. There's problems with it, including that whole middle chunk. But outside of that, it was really fun. But we asked you guys what you thought. It seems like our audience is split, which is always fun. 24% saying it's better than Force Awakens. 24% saying it's worse than Force Awakens. 13% the hardcore saying better than Empire. And then we got a bunch of Philistines out there. 39% saying they're not Star Wars fans. So I don't know. I guess we just got a bunch of bah humbugs.
That is surprising.
Bunch of bah humbugs out there in our Twitter feed today. So let's move on to something that maybe they won't bah humbug, or maybe they will, because people hate this too sometimes, but they also love it in mass. They can't get enough of it. So yeah, the party is official. I mentioned at the top of the show, we got CBOE futures, we got CME futures. Sometime in the future, we're going to have NASDAQ futures, but forget about that for now, because we got two listed contracts. So the thing everybody's asking us, because I guess we're the arbiters of all things options, we are at options after all, is when the heck are we going to get options on these things? So we thought, we speculated a lot. We turned the tables to you and say, when the heck are we going to be able to trade options on these futures? Gave you four choices, pretty simple: Q1, Q2, Q3, or Q4 of 2018. We're being optimistic. It's going to happen sometime in 2018. If you're on board with that, when do you think it will happen? Mr. Rock Lobster, we'll start with you, sir. When are you buying we're going to get our hands on these options?
I think the exchanges want to list them as fast as humanly possible. So I think they would like to do Q1 2018, but I bet it will take to Q2 2018.
Interesting, Mr. Uncle Mike, what are you feeling, sir?
Q1. I think that they're going to find a way to get it done in Q1. And I wouldn't even be surprised with all the retail interest in this. They might even get some type of like an e-micro contract on this for the small lot players.
Well, yeah, CME definitely needs one because they picked a 5-coin contract. I'm sure that was an interesting choice. They're getting only 1 coin is already enormous. 5 coins is well beyond the scope of most retail. So they've kind of limited who can play with their contract. So I guess we'll be getting maybe a mini future before we get an option there. But I'm with you, Mr. Rock Lobster. I think Q2. I've been saying that for a while. I think Q2 is a reason. I think they would love to have it tomorrow, but there's a lot more hoops you got to jump through to get the options to actually list and make sense. So Q1 would be nice, but I think Q2 is a reasonable outlook here. So far, our audience, though, they're on the hardcore optimistic train. 50% saying we're going to get them in Q1. 25% saying Q2, and then 13% for Q3. 12% saying the laggards saying Q4 here. So interesting stuff here for you guys. They want it, and they want it now. I understand it. I feel your pain. Speaking of which, when we asked you guys last week, are you guys going to trade these CBOE futures? They just launched last week. 57% of you said hell no. So there we go. No love for the CBOE futures. 17% saying heck yes. So And 4% saying already traded them. So 22%, about a quarter of you already traded these things or are about to. So there was some love, but interesting stuff there. More questions piling in. We got LLN8. Sounds like a Star Wars droid there. What products would you like to see on the Bitcoin crypto front? I'm all on for the options. I really need to see a listed options product. And I know we've got whatever Cantor is doing over there with kind of their matching exchange. I'd probably get those guys on the network to talk to them about what they're actually doing over there, because they're one of the few who are actually putting up quote-unquote Bitcoin options. They're pretty much just mass institutional trades at this point, so you can't go through your broker and buy something on the Cantor exchange as an option. But they are at least approximating that functionality right now, so it might be worth chatting with those guys. But I really need to see a nice listed options product. Then, as Uncle Mike was saying before, then we can start sinking our teeth into the spreads and all the other fun things you can actually do with these products. Now that there's actual listed real derivatives on these things, as opposed to kind of there's some guy wrote in last week, one of our shows, for the July 10,000 put on some funky Bitcoin derivatives exchange, quote unquote, out there. And it was pretty wild. But on a real listed lit venue that people have actually heard of, that have, has big collateral behind it, is what we like. And so that's kind of what I'm looking to see. I don't care. I don't have a dog in that fight. It could be the CBOE contract, could be CME, could be both, could be NASDAQ, could beat them all out to the gate. I don't care. But as long as we got some nice listed options contracts on a venue people have actually heard of and want to trade on, and people stand behind, I think that would be a pretty interesting thing. What say you, Mr. Uncle Mike? What would you like to see on the Bitcoin crypto front?
Well, I mean, I'd like to also see some type of an ETF on it. I would imagine it's something that you could do, like with USO and UNG. We've beaten those to death on this show with terms of how the pricing works a little bit different with the futures, because that's how they're working with it, and you have the roll factored in. It's kind of making it tough to track it ideally, but with like a GLD and an SLV, it works pretty well because they can own the physical. But I'd be curious as to if there would be a way to have an ETF on Bitcoin if you could own the crypto. I don't know how that could work, but I imagine that could be doable to make it somewhat of a legit ETF in some way. And I'd like to see that and see it traded like GLD and SLV are.
I just got something come across my timeline here from MarketWatch saying one economist makes a daring prediction that Bitcoin could hit 0 or 1 million. How is that a headline? How is that even a story? I love it. It's just madness. It's complete madness.
Well, if that's a headline, how come my 50% guarantee never becomes a headline?
Yeah, you're right.
Gosh.
You got to call these MarketWatch guys. I guess they'll run anything. I'm still digesting that bold prediction, Mr. Rock Lobster. I think the ETF actually is a good call. I forgot about that. And they tried that. The Winklevoss boys over there who listed with the CBOE, with the Gemini, they first tried an ETF. And it got shot down. So guess what? They went over the futures route to the CFTC, and guess what? It got approved. So that's kind of how that ball rolls. Mr. Rock Lobster, what are you feeling, sir?
Oh, as far as what are they going to list and how fast they're going to list. And I like the idea of the ETF, although it's kind of one of those weird ones, because how are they really going to acquire the underlying? You know what I mean? I still have a lot of issue with the scarcity of the whole thing. So ultimately, I think the cash, it's also nebulous anyway. It's just there's a cash index and a future, and it all is cash settled. It really doesn't exist anyway. So just go trade it. And I think I just don't see how the ETF would function unless it settles to a future, which we have future settled ETFs like that, like VXX and all those other ones. So. But as far as the ETF just grabbing the physical, I think that would be hard with Bitcoin. It would have all kinds of problems.
Yeah, that would be a challenge. Speaking of all sorts of fun, we gotta move on really quickly. We got this coming in here from the live chat here. T-Mal, he's chimed in before. I think he's a Bitcoin proponent, I believe, or at least a devotee. He follows it. Rumors that Donald Trump. Bitcoin and Donald Trump, what could go wrong? Rumors that Donald Trump is long Bitcoin, hence why he hasn't opined on the biggest story of the year. So there you go. This has all been a...
There might be something to that. There might be something to that. I'm going to tell you guys something on Donald Trump. When I was with the Bills, one thing that he does is he sends out, I actually got it. Donald Trump has actually asked me for my autograph. True story. I was in a hurry that day, so I threw the letter away, but every NFL team member, he says he sends out this letter to everyone every year asking for his autograph. And he has thousands upon thousands of autographs in his collection. He wrote a long letter about it. I really, in hindsight, I wish I would have saved it. It probably would have been worth a lot of money today, but the fact that he goes through and sends out a letter to every possible free agent rookie in every major sport every year asking for their autograph as an investment thing, I would not be surprised in the least if Donald Trump is long Bitcoin.
You're blowing my mind here, sir. I just all sorts of, just when you think the Bitcoin story can't get stranger. There it goes. It gets stranger. Live here on the option block. We got to keep on rolling, though. Otherwise, we could go even down into crazier rabbit holes. Instead, we'll keep on going right on into Around the Block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, Uncle Mike, I think you should run with that. I think you should go out there and be like, hey, Uncle Donald Trump really wants my autograph. You should have me as your financial advisor. What do you think?
I really wish that that's one of the regrets I have of my football career, not saving that letter and not actually returning it and just throwing it away right away. I really wish I would have done something with that, but it was one of those things. It was the middle of training camp or mini camp. I forget what it was, but I don't need to deal with this today. And I just threw it away. I just think I set it aside and never dealt with it ever again.
He's got someone on his staff who's an avid football collector, and so he was getting some free autograph action. I'll probably turn around and dumping it. So good for him. So yeah, maybe in that sense, maybe the Bitcoin long isn't as far fetched as it might seem. All right, let's get on to some other crazy business. This week is kind of shy on crazy business. We're coming up into next week, of course, which is a truncated holiday week. Good news for you. You got a full week of us this week because nothing shut down this week. So we'll be back on Thursday for Option Block. We'll be there on Friday for all of our shows. Maybe some midweek love as well. We can get some stuff scheduled. So stay tuned to the Mixlers for that and, of course, for the network. With that said, Mr. Rock Lobster, what are you watching the rest of the week, sir?
Tax reform, equity evaluation. I mean, do you remember the old days? You're like, oh, the NASDAQ will never be at 5,000 again, and now it's 7,000. So, Berkshire Hathaway is 300,000. I remember when I first started in '89, you could buy a share of Berkshire Hathaway. I think at the time it was $1,900. So, you stay around long enough, you buy some stuff, and it could be worth something. Bitcoin, I guess it's the same thing. So it's just really morality and what stops it. That's kind of where I don't see anything around it. VIX is about as low as it can get. And I'm continuing just to watch the show play.
It is quite a show. How great do you feel right now if you sold out your Bitcoin in like Q2 of this year? You got a great run. You're not upset, but then you see the exponential nonsense that happened afterwards, and you're probably still upset. So that's the human psychology. You can never win at the end of the day. Uncle Mike, sir, aside from winning with Donald Trump's autograph, what's on your mind for this week, sir?
Well, just the tax reform, just to see if they actually get it through committee and see how that works with it. I believe it's either tomorrow in the Senate, Wednesday in the House, or I forget what the case may be, whatever it is. But I know that by our Thursday show, we should have some information on if that passed or not, which I think it will, and just seeing how the market reacts to it. We're at all-time highs today, and if the market deems this as good news, we could have a nice little Santa Claus rally going into the end of the year.
Well, we'll have to wait till Thursday to find out. That music means, unfortunately, we're done here. For the old OB, like I said, stay tuned to the network and to the Mixler throughout the week. We got good stuff hitting throughout most of the week, so we'll see. Of course, things winding down with all the holidays coming up, but we keep giving you the goodness here on the network. If not 24/7, at least every day, pretty much, of the week. But before we go, check back in with my cohorts, my partners in crime. See what they're cooking up that may interest you. Mr. Rock Lobster, any good seasonal goodies on tap over there in the land of the pit?
Yes, VIX Made Easy. It's our webinar, probably the best thing I've ever done on VIX. That is out. You could sign up for the class. Just send me a note at andrew@optionpit.com. My new vol newsletter will come out at the first of the year. Everybody in our chat room already loves it. And also, if you want any insight to me as a trader way back in the day, one of my old friends did an interview on me, and it's on Famous Dave, the Famous Dave, FAMIS. He's started a little channel in interviewing. So anyway, we just did a little reminiscing. It was fun. So that's what we got going on.
The Famous Dave, FAMIS.
Yes, right. Dave.
Volatility trader, wannabe actor.
Yep. He was a floor trader for I don't know, a decade or more. So you probably crossed paths on the CBOE at some point. So
you don't see those two titles in the business card very often.
No.
That's worthy of note in and of itself.
He's an interesting cat.
I'm gonna have to check out this Famous Dave. You check it out, listeners, and see if you can't get enough of the rock lobster. You want to hear how this whole lobstery ball got started, this whole lobster roll, if you will, then maybe check out the Famous Dave. Because I certainly haven't done an in-depth Oprah-esque sit on the couch crying childhood moments talk with the rock lobster. So there you go. Maybe this Famous Dave guy will do it for you. If not, you can always turn to Uncle Mike and say, Uncle Mike, help me with my skew. Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope.
Oh, boy. Well, if you want a financial advisor who is actually spending the last days of the year trying to figure out what the gammas are in his positions and trying to figure out how to get the best bang for your buck the last couple of weeks instead of just trying to pitch you on more mutual funds, well, give me a call. I am at 312-212-3531 or shoot me an email at mtosaw@rcmfs.com. And if you want to work with an advisor who has had Donald Trump request his autograph and then forgot to give it to him, then I'm your guy.
That almost makes it cooler. I forgot to give him my autograph. I'll send it to the president now. Yeah, I think the Oval Office. You have his address now, so he's an easy guy to find, Uncle Mike. I think you should rectify that just to keep the story alive. Unfortunately, the show can't stay alive. We got to wrap it up. And on behalf of the Rock Lobster and Uncle Mike, we send you well wishes. By the way, Uncle Mike, I know what it's like to have that plague. So hopefully, you fight through it. Have a lot of nice chicken soup. Get a lot of rest, and then pray to the plague gods that they spare you. And hopefully, we'll see you right back here on Thursday for more of the Option Block.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.